Hey everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host of Sales and Cigars. Today, it's an episode about podcasting. My guest is JR Rivera. He's got a company called The Podcast Factory, and it was sort of on my mind that I'm going to be talking to a podcast guru, and I don't get nervous, but I was feeling a little pressure. All for naught, because it was a great conversation. So if this episode is about how to position a podcast, why you should do a podcast, more importantly, why you shouldn't do a podcast. And we just talk about, the title of this is really the right people, the right place, the right time. And it was an interesting conversation, and I think JR and I are going to do some business. So if you got podcasting at all in your mind, or you want to learn a little bit more about the backside, go grab a cocktail, grab a cigar, strap in for another impactful episode of Sales and Cigars. So JR, I appreciate your time, taking some time to jump on the podcast with me. I've sort of had this marked on my calendar, a little bit of pressure for Walter talking to a podcast guru. And I know you don't like the moniker, but that's what I'm giving you.
Well, I'll take it. I'm a humble man. I'll take what you give. I'm happy to be here, man. I'm so grateful that you've invited me on the show. I'm really stoked to talk with you about business, about cigars, about anything that you want to talk about. And dude, just lead the way and I will do my best to follow.
All right. This is just, to me, it's about having fun, having an interesting conversation, add some value to the audience. And I don't expect that that's going to be a problem. So
good.
Let's go. Talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, from the business perspective, because I always make the joke that as a 10-year-old, you probably didn't think you were going to be doing podcasting. Maybe, I don't know. But
it wasn't around, man. Come on. I'm not that young. Man, it has been incredible. And I am blessed today to have the business I have that lines up with my passion and my purpose and what God created me for. Here's what I like to say. The right words from the right person at the right time can change a life. And I, sir, am in the business of changing lives. I don't do that by myself. I mean, I wish I could, but I do it talking to guys like you, with the experts who we help at the Podcast Factory, talking to other cool people, because one thing I know is there is a change waiting for you out there. And maybe you don't know it now, but if you get around the right people, if you get around the right message, if you get around the right influences, that change could happen where you're living a totally different life than you were before. And so that's my business, brother. I get to do this. And I know that somebody that hears us today could hear something that can change their life, and boom, another life changed just from hearing the right words. And so I'm blessed, brother. I wasn't always doing this. I was a terrible student in high school. I'll tell you what got me here. And this is a really short version of what got me here. I was a terrible student in school, period. And I believe that my teachers passed me just to get me out of their classrooms. That's what I think, because there's no way I should have passed. But in all that time in school, there was one little spot that I actually did well in, and it was TV productions. And I did 4 years of TV productions, and I got 4 A's, only class. And I didn't know that would be my business. You're right. I didn't know I would be doing anything in media. But when the time came, many, many years later, 20 years later, I realized, I have these skills and I can use that for this. And wow, that opens up this whole new world for me. And so I got into podcasting just by luck. But it wasn't always meant to be. And it's about my mission of changing lives with these conversations.
Well, it's a great purpose to have, right? I believe that we all have that ability to touch somebody. It may not be a complete metamorphosis, but if we can help steer somebody in the right direction, but it starts with that mentality, that mindset. and being able to be open and listening and being with the right people. I think that's a great way. But if you were good at that in school, you were fortunate to have a school that had that type of facility. That that takes a teacher that has some kind of passion around that. It takes some resources because studios, and we had one in the high schools that I went to school in, and it was a big deal, and it was a big deal to get in those classes. So
Yeah.
you knew you were good at something, and you just kind of came back to that, and
A
podcasting.
long time later, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was my thing, but I actually out of high school I became an electrician because I
Hmm.
grew up blue collar. I became an electrician. I worked as an electrician for 9 years, and I was at a point where I was young and I was right out of high school. So I worked my way up. I was running jobs. I mean, I had the truck, I had the crew and all that. And it was like, at that time, I was proud of it right now. Yeah, man.
But it's something to be proud of. It's a trade that we need more of. You can be really well compensated. Start off yanking wire and then running a crew, make a nice living.
It was it was good. Like I enjoyed the work and I got a lot of pride out of it because I'm a craftsman at heart. And it was good. But at a certain point, I'm looking around seeing old guys who are working for me. And I'm like, dude, is this it? Like, have I reached the pinnacle? Is this it? And so that's the question that I ask myself continually through life that helps me break through from where I am to the next level is this it? Because that's what's going to separate the winners from the losers. Like cocky Johnny, when he got the truck and all that, he was like, this is it, man. Check it out. I got everything. But that cockiness, that doesn't get you anywhere. What I found is being a little bit more humble and asking a question. Is this it? Will help you get clearer on where you are and where you want to go.
That's a great perspective. Being humble is important, no matter what your role is, right? Being a father, a son, a business owner, that carrying that through your life is, I think, is critical. Because otherwise, you're never going to learn if you walk around thinking you have the answers all the time.
That's what I tell my son all the time. He tells me I know. He's 9 years old. I want to tell him you don't know, but I can't, right? Because I got to be a good dad. But I'm like, listen, son, I think that it might work a little bit better for you in terms of life. Asking yourself, do I know? Is there more? Is there something? We had this conversation this morning. He was telling me I know. And I'm like, dude, maybe you need to learn a little bit more. If you don't know everything, then you have a continual lifetime of learning, which is, to me, is the pursuit. It's the reason we live.
It's the joy.
Yes.
I think of having interesting conversations with people. I mean, part of the reason why I started this podcast was to have interesting conversations with interesting people, and that's how I learn. I take those lessons and apply them, and we're helping some people. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but it's a to me, there's a certain level of fun, because that's sort of the rules. If I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it, right? And if there's not some bigger purpose in it, I don't really want to do it. And my real job is helping salespeople and sales managers get better. And there's huge joy and satisfaction in watching somebody go from not thinking they could do something to actually going and closing a deal, and then coming back. It's like, hey, that thing you told me, it worked. Oh, do tell. And it's sort of like the 9-year-old that I've had conversations like that with my daughter. It's like, Dad, I understand this. I know what I'm doing. Okay, all right. What's the next move? What do you mean? Well, what happens next? Like, what are you anticipating? Because you got it all figured out. Tell me what the next 2-3 moves are. Because if you're not thinking 2-3 moves down the board, then maybe you get surprised.
Yeah.
And she was a good kid. She always kind of listened. She liked challenging. She liked pushing back. Yeah. Don't take. We taught her not to take any crap from people. We taught her to stand on her own 2 feet. We challenge things, but She often did a lot of challenging back with us.
That's what it backfires, right?
Yeah, sometimes it did. But it was like, I learned stuff from her, right? Some things we agree upon, some things we don't agree on, but it's part of the process.
Man, it's a blessing. I had one today, man. I'll admit this to you since we're talking right now, and it's fresh. But I was we also have real estate and we have rentals, and we were turning over a couple apartments, and we had one resident today that was just complaining nonstop. She had a leak. We fixed the leak, and then she found some dirt on the floor, and somebody needed to come over and clean the floor. And I'm like, dude, we just dried out your place. We took out the ceiling. I was like, I'm going to tell this lady she can move out. And my son's wanting to come with me. He's like, oh, daddy, can I come? I'm like, no, I'm going to go talk to this lady. As soon as I stepped out the door, I thought about him and him wanting to come and how embarrassed I would be at him seeing me talk like that to somebody or be a wise guy or any of that. You know what I did? I went over there and I told her, oh, yes, that looks like a mess. Do you have a broom and a bag, and I'll clean it up for you? Right? Because I'm just going to be that cocky a-hole that I've always been. But then with the kid over here looking at me, it's like,
they have a way of bringing out bringing those better qualities out, and they don't mean to do it, but when we think about it, what you did, my first response would have been the same thing, right? Cleaning service. I'm your landlord, not your cleaning person. We can work that out if you want.
Right.
But it's always, it happened to me yesterday. My first response was to tell somebody to go F off, and I chose not to do that. And it turned out that it was the right move, and it all worked out really well. Contractors are, as you know, can be a challenge from time to time. So, but I mean, they have that ability to persuade and influence us to make us better if we go back to the humble idea.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And being able to be open to learning, because we don't want our kids to see us operate like that.
No, I felt really embarrassed, and he didn't even see me. Just that I thought that I felt embarrassed, and then I said, "You know what? I'm growing. I'm growing as a human."
and it's that continues. Like, I'm 59 years old, and I stopped myself from doing something stupid that 10 years ago I would have just plowed forward, right? So you can still grow up. The cool thing about kids to me, though, is that I thought I was going to have to grow up immediately when my wife said we're having a kid. It scared the crap out of me, because I didn't want to do that. But it actually makes it easier to be a parent, I think, if you don't completely grow up. You got to be responsible.
Sure.
But if you can get down there and relate to them and have those conversations, you don't have to grow up, and you
get to play. You still get to play if you play it right.
if you're playing the right game, it is, and it goes back to what you're saying about having a purpose and instilling that upon him. He's going to get to where he needs to go faster because of what you're doing and what you're teaching and what you're emulating.
Yeah, hopefully. That's our prayer and our wish, for sure.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the Podcast Factory. Why you started it, what you see in the marketplace. Because I think, I'll just say this. I started podcasting because I was sitting in Orlando with a friend, smoking a couple of cigars.
A couple?
Because we had been having a few cocktails that afternoon.
Okay.
And just talking and just catching up, because he's a really good friend. And at one point, about 3 cocktails deep, he said, we should be recording this.
There it is.
And I go, why would we record this? He goes, well, we're hilarious. And we're saying a bunch of great stuff that other people could benefit from. Like, have another drink and settle down. Right. But that was the kernel that got me thinking about maybe this would be interesting. Maybe it would be fun to have conversations with people and let other people hear it, let other people listen. I'll have an occasional cocktail while I'm doing the show. I don't get to the point that I was with my friend, but so I mean that's how I started. I mean, I'm sure you see people have a theme or want to go do something but have no idea what they're doing. It's like, how did you? I know you wanted to help people, so how did you see this being helpful to what the to the potential podcasters?
It's interesting because we weren't, or I wasn't thinking of it in quite those terms, but you and I started in a similar way. I just started way long time ago. Right? I did my first podcast in 08.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And the Podcast Factory did our first show there in 13. So it's been a minute since I've been in podcasting. But the way it started was that I had a friend in real estate. He was a real estate trainer and a real estate coach. And he helped me out a bunch in looking at my business and changing my perspective and doing some things. And it helped me out a ton in the apartments. All the stuff that I knew online, I had never applied to my real estate business. And all he said, and this is one of those things, right words, right person, right time. He's like, hey, like your email marketing, your landing pages, your video sales, are you using that for your real estate business? I was like, no. He's like, well, maybe you ought to. And it worked. It worked really, really well. It's still working today. In fact, it works so well. And I owed it to him. I said, dude, you have helped me out a ton. More people need to know about you. Let's record our conversations and put them up and get your name out there to more people. And it was just me wanting to thank him and wanting to bless our listeners with his perspective because the guy helped me and he could help them. That's how it started. And then I started partnering with more of my mentors and it just snowballed from there that I was just doing a bunch of shows with a bunch of friends. That was all it was to me. And then people at masterminds and events are like, heard you on the show with so-and-so, heard you on the show with so-and-so. Can you help me? And that's when I realized, I said, oh, I didn't realize. In fact, it was my wife. I call her Cupcake. She's like, all these people are asking you about podcasting. Why aren't you selling that? Oh,
they have a way of crystallizing things and asking questions. I think our wives.
Yeah, right? It helped. And she runs a business with me right now. And so we're partners in this business and our real estate business. And, I listen to her. Because it makes sense. That's how we ended up here, man. Just wanted to help people.
It's a great reason for starting a business is to be of service to others. I mean, that I think there's not a better reason for it. Yeah, we want to profit from it. We want to be able to pay the bills and employ other people. But when you start to add all that up, the people you employ, the people that they take care of, and the people they buy things from, I mean, you've got a huge community, and essentially a huge responsibility.
Yes,
when it comes to podcasting. So when somebody comes to you guys and says, hey, I want to be a podcaster, but I have no idea what to do, you can take them by the hand and walk them through those steps?
No, I tell them, don't do it. If somebody tells me they want to be a podcaster, I tell them, don't do it. Don't do it. And the reason why is because I don't really know anything about, and this is why I don't want you calling me a guru podcast. I don't know anything about podcasting. What I know about is business, driving leads, driving sales. And so if somebody has a business and they want to open up a new channel to drive leads, drive sales, conversions, all that kind of stuff, I know how to do that. And I do it using the podcast medium. That's what I know. But if you're just trying to create a podcast and hope you get sponsors, I am not your guy.
Hey, thanks for being part of the Sales and Cigar community. I wanted to share that I wrote a book, The 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Organization. The CEOs who've read it tell me I cut to the chase quickly, get to the point, explain exactly what they're experiencing, why they're experiencing it, and how to fix it. So if you want a free copy, go check out the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the interview. But I mean, getting sponsors, that path is rough and bumpy and not likely, because there's not a lot of Joe Rogans out there, right? I mean, that doesn't materialize. That takes something. But to be able for it to be a channel to support your business, whether that be a real estate investor, a sales development person, or a leadership coach, or just somebody that's trying to. I was talking to one of my wife's friends the other day, and she sells knitting patterns. I'd never heard of that before. She's making 7 figures a year, travels the world, selling
knitting
patterns and talking about that to other people who want to. My wife likes quilting, and I'm like, oh, we got to figure out how to get you into a 7-figure quilting gig.
There it is.
So I mean, there's lots of ways to go about it, but your focus is helping them. After you tell them it's a bad idea, that they shouldn't do it, then you can help them have it be that marketing vehicle for them to create credibility.
But see, it's interesting because I know you're into messaging and marketing. That's part of what you do. And instantly, by me saying I don't want any podcasters, you called out like my ideal audience. Somehow you called out executive coaches, consultants, sales, right? Real estate investors. That is our audience. Those people have businesses, and you can see how they could plug in a podcast and get more deals, sell more coaching, make more appointments. So yeah, it's absolutely, there's got to be a business that's already working, and we want to add fuel to that fire. And so, yeah, absolutely. I start looking at it from the business perspective first. So when I interview somebody who wants to work with us, I'm interviewing them to find out if they have a working business already and that we can amplify that business. Because look,
so
I wasn't bright as...
How would you define working? What is that? What is that?
A business that's generating income already, and we want to generate more income.
Okay. So that can support itself, and it's not,
yes, and it can support, right? It could support marketing. It can support the extra expense. If you can't support, like if you're throwing your last $3,000 at me, I don't want that, right? Like your last little bit of money. I want somebody who has a budget that can spend money, like you said, 2, 3, 4, 6 months, however long it takes to get that ROI. But yeah, if you have those pieces, a working business, you have some channels that are working, I can bring in the podcast and make those channels work better by doing simple direct response marketing, better messaging, more uniform funnel, tying in the pieces where maybe a podcast is knocking out objections or pre-selling people. That's the kind of things I do with a podcast.
And you can do that with people that are in all those spaces that we talked about. But are they doing that with guests? Or are they doing it as just sort of like a monologue story, or both? What is there?
It depends on the business. It depends on the business, right? Because we have a couple different ways that we approach it. One of the ways that we do is what we call the client cartels. And the client cartels is basically those coaches, those executive coaches that want to be speaking to CEOs or anybody who needs to close on the phone and wants to be talking to decision makers. We position a podcast as a tool for them to talk to connect with their ideal prospects. Right. So you're using it for business development. And off the back of that, you have sales opportunities. That's a different way to look at a podcast and an interview show than I'm just interviewing people. And so that's what we look at. Who do you want to talk to? We had an executive coach who, in his third conversation, talking to CEOs of companies, he closed a deal that paid for podcasting for the whole year. Why? Because he has a sales process. He has a business. He has something that people want, and he just needs another channel to get them in. Make sense?
Oh, yeah. It's top of the funnel, lead gen, but with dialed in to your ideal client profile or your avatar, your dot, whatever the terminology.
Exact person that you want to talk to, whatever that person is. So that's one way we do it. The other way that you'll see a lot of people do is I need to build my brand my personal brand, or I need to build my brand online, or I need my footprint, right? People that want to create content, and all the content pushes back to their info products or offerings. That's the other thing we do. And we call that the content cannon, where we're going to take video, audio, all that, and turn it into 20, 30 assets for you so that you can go put it all over social media and bring people back to your products. That's the other way we do it. So it really depends on the business.
And what their objectives are.
Well, we need a goal, and the goal needs to be dollars. Let me just say that. It's just, how are we going to get those dollars?
Right. But I mean, I think a lot of people under the misconception, and we're clearing that up, is that monetizing a podcast isn't necessarily having, a cigar brand sponsoring it and paying you to talk about it. It's about generating revenue for your existing business and creating more lead opportunities and more conversations. And if you're good at what you do and you have more conversations, you should be able to close more business.
Money.
Just keep throwing more money at this to
and
to grow. If that's your plan.
That's it, man. That's the whole. I can't understand doing it if you don't have an ROI, right? Because my mind just doesn't work that way, because then I'm like, what are we doing? We need a scorecard. And so the scorecard is the business. And whether that's through those appointments and closing clients or selling product, I don't know, but we need a scorecard, and then we can build a plan to make it happen. And that's why I talk people out of podcasting when they say, hey, I want to be a podcaster.
Yeah. Well, but you're approaching it just like you said, like, with your real estate business, you're not buying a property unless you see a path to an ROI at some point, whether that's cash flow or holding on to it for a period of time to wait for something to happen where you can sell it at a profit or flip it. I mean, there's lots of ways to make money in real estate, but it's your same principles you're applying to podcasting, which is like what you said before.
You want it, right? You want results. I did a show, and we're winding up the show. It was called Results Leader, right? And all it is, what does anybody want? We want results. We want results. So if you're not getting results, you don't matter. And that's the way we feel about all our work.
Well, in marketing, my struggle with marketing has always been, how are you going to get me an ROI? Well, we're going to generate content for you. Like, okay, that's terrific. How are you going to get me to dollars that I can deposit into a bank account? And because I can't take the content and pay vendors, I can't take the content and pay the mortgage.
What? You can't deposit likes in the bank?
No, it doesn't. Nobody seems to give a crap about that other than Zuckerberg and some marketing people. And he's, I don't even want to go down that path.
Yeah. He's raking it in though.
Yeah, but it's this simple in my mind. If you're getting something for free, then you are the product.
You're the product. There's no question about that. People don't realize it.
And even when you tell them that, you sit there for an hour and a half after dinner playing around on Facebook, you're just giving everybody so much data about you. And I was talking to a marketing guy the other day, and he's like, if you want to talk to somebody that buys golf balls every week, and you want to talk, and they're specifically buying Callaway golf balls, and they're specifically doing it in this demographic, you can dial that in and have those kinds of conversations, or you can find those people and talk to them. And it's scary how much data is available in that, because we give it away.
It's incredible.
Scary. I remember the first time I realized that, I was sitting and I have a tendency to say I'm sitting at a bar with a friend, but I was sitting at a bar with a friend, and he was explaining to me about a company I'd never heard of it. And he was like, how do you not heard about this company? It's been around. They do great stuff. So he tells me all about it. And then the next day I'm scrolling something on my phone.
There's the ad
for that company.
Yeah. They listen to you.
But I wasn't, it was just my phone.
The apps actually have a thing. We found my Rachel Cupcake sent me a video on how to turn it off, because the apps all inside have the mic on. So they listen to you.
Oh, well, those were shut off. And I bought myself one of those bags that you can put your phone in,
Yeah.
that stop any stuff coming in and out of it. But I find myself now, drives my daughter nuts. I have a 21-year-old. She's like, we go out to dinner, and I'm walking down the street. She's like, all right, well, if you're going to go down there to that cigar shop, we're going to go over here and do this. Just text us when you're done. Like, I don't have my phone with me.
It's like old days.
She's like, what do you mean you don't have your phone with you? I'm like, I left it at the hotel. I don't need the phone. I was coming out to hang out with you guys. I don't need to.
Right.
Well, how do you leave the house without your phone? I don't get that. And I'm like,
That is amazing.
It is not tethered to my side, and I don't need it to, have a conversation with my daughter. But it drives her bananas when I don't have my phone with me.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I'm old. That's part of my problem. Is she calls me.
I want a flip phone. I want to go back to the Razor. If I could just find 2 razors, man, I'd be happy.
Well, Samsung has a flip phone now, but not the. Yeah, it opens and it's a full screen, and it does flip up and fit into your pocket.
No, I don't want a smartphone. I want like just numbers.
Oh, my father has a flip phone and it still works. He doesn't know how to use it, but he has one. He can't turn it on. He can't answer a phone when it rings, but it is.
But he's got it.
Exist. And they're pretty inexpensive, and people look at you like you got 2 heads if you're using a flip phone. So let's kind of go to the other side of this podcast, cigars. And I always ask my guests, do you have a relationship, past or present, with cigars? I know you do, because we had this conversation about one of my favorite restaurants in Orlando and one of my favorite cigar shops in Orlando. So when you go there, you said you'll go to and do some journaling and do some thinking.
Yeah.
So is a cigar for you more often than not? Is it this contemplative thing that helps you think and be creative? Or is it this social thing that allows you to be part of a community and socialize?
Yeah, more often than not, I like it socially. I have a couple friends who we do the thing. We go, we light up a cigar, we talk shop, we mastermind, we share ideas, thoughts, dreams. And so that part, that is fun. I also have a friend who he's like an aggressive collector. So I also enjoy riding his coattails as he finds good cigars. I just get a couple off of him. And then we trade war stories on how he got this one and that one. The latest one was an Amazon Basin cigar. And he was like just hunting these down, and he found a shop in Canada. And he's like, they got 6 left. Order yours. I can't find them anywhere. And, all that is fun. I like that. But then there's the other side where I can walk a couple blocks, and next time you're in town, we got to stay connected so we can go burn a stick and get a steak over at Cress.
Absolutely.
But I do like the part where every once in a while I can go watch people passing by, because the cigar bar we're talking about has a nice outside area as well. Mm-hmm. I watch all the downtown traffic, nice 10:30 a.m. cigar while people are running off to work. I'm smoking a cigar, thinking about life. Mm-hmm. But I like it both ways. But I think more than not, I like the social aspect.
Because I look at it as a community of like-minded individuals that you immediately have a connection with. Like you can walk into that cigar bar, and doesn't matter who's there, doesn't matter where they're from, what the demographic is, how old they are, how much experience they have. You have the cigar that is the common thing that gets people to communicate. And I went in there, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and there was a bunch of guys in there that looked like athletes, right? I mean, they were like big, huge built guys, and they were football players. And it was their thing that they did when they came to town for some event. They went there and sat in the one little corner in the chairs and talked about life and about, whatever that they were talking about. And you could relate. I wouldn't run into those guys and have anything to talk to them about, but it's like, what are you smoking? And
Yeah.
boom, you're off to the races with a cigar. It doesn't matter where you are. It's that common thing.
One of my clients says it this way. He said, "It's a fellow man of the leaf."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're fellow men of the leaf.
Yeah, I've used the brothers and sisters of the leaf as a sort of a moniker, and you're connected, and appreciating. I'm not a collector like your friend. It's interesting. I mean, I get into enough trouble with the couple thousand cigars I have in my humidor.
Yeah.
My wife's like, "You got another box of what?" Like, don't worry about it. But that that idea of being able to have a cigar that just connects us with the people. I mean, I'm stuck on that, and I can't. No matter where I am on vacation or in Florida, and there's always cool cigar shops around.
Yeah.
Right. There's one up in Tampa that used to be a church.
Really?
Yeah.
The
name is it escapes me. But you pull into the parking lot. I drove around it 3 times because it doesn't have great signage, but because it was a church. I kept driving around. That's not the cigar shop. And then I see all the cars in there. It's like, well, that maybe it is. So I go in and pull in the back, and boom, there's huge patio, dude smoking cigars. And then you go inside, and it's an old church that they converted into. There's a bar in the sanctuary, which is not normal, but you can go sit up in the pulpit. There's 2 chairs up there. You can go sit and have a cigar.
Oh gosh,
I mean,
I got to check that out.
And it's all lit, like you would find a church lit up in the evening during the holidays. It's kind of it's cool. And then they have a food truck in the parking lot, so you can go there for lunch.
I gotta go there.
I will remember the name and send it to you.
Yeah, I'm going to Tampa next week.
All right, I'll get it to you. So it's on the it's on the outskirts of Tampa on the southeast side.
Cool.
I'll get the name, send it to you. So if somebody is dumb enough to want to start a podcast,
don't do it.
They have a business that they need to grow. What's the best way to reach out to you or your team?
I think there's a couple things that I'll give you guys. Number one, Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And so I'll give you this. I mean, if you guys are hanging here with Walter and you want to hang with more cool people, at least listening to their words, listening to stories, listening to new perspective that can uplift you from where you are, thepodcastfactory.com. Look for the client showcase. There's at least 80, 90 shows on that page right now.
It's pretty impressive.
Check out. I mean, that's plain and simple. Now, on the other hand, if you have a message, a mission, a purpose, you want to grow, you want to reach more people, same place, thepodcastfactory.com/call. And you can get on the calendar and I can tell you whether it's a good idea, whether I think it'll work, whether not, it won't work.
I mean, it sounds like you're discerning about, you want to help people that can be helped and that you can provide value to. And if you can't, you're going to share that with them as well.
And that is help, right? That's helping them get realistic about it. And the other thing, man, because it goes back to my mission, right words from the right person at the right time can change a life. When I take on a show, I want it to be someone that can change lives, right? I want to help you do God's work, changing lives. That's the way I look at it, man. And so I will jump on a mission like that with the right person, but I want it to be like a partnership. And so that's the way I look at it.
I think that is the right way to do it. And if you don't have a purpose, maybe we shouldn't be in business. So,
you got to have a reason.
All right, JR, this was awesome. I was excited about this, and we didn't disappoint. And I think the podcast guru moniker is going to stick.
You're too generous, Walter. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for the talk. Thank you for the time. And I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you. Thank you. I love sharing secrets when I figure them out. That's why I created this program called Sales Hiring Secrets. Early in my sales management career, I was terrible at hiring salespeople. They failed more often than not. Then I discovered the secret that you can't hire salespeople the same way you hire everyone else. That's why everyone fails. In Sales Hiring Secrets, I'm going to teach you all of the secrets to understanding what you really need your salesperson to do, how to attract an ideal candidate with a unique job posting. I'll teach you how to save time and money by only interviewing candidates that are a good fit. I'll share the secrets to an interviewing process that ensures success. And the one big secret that everybody gets wrong is how to onboard a good salesperson so they ramp up quickly and stick around. I'm doing the Sales Hiring Secrets program on a monthly basis. You can click the link below to figure out when the next Sales Hiring Secrets program is scheduled, and you can sign up. Click the link below, and you get all the details. And it's designed for you to bring your entire team so you can get everybody up to speed quickly. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you on the other side.